second piece here. So let's go to the other side of this, which is to load. And we could do it rather similarly, but we have an inherent problem when we read things from a file. And the inherent problem is, how do we know how many lines there are in the file? So we would like to come up with a way of having the thing loop and then stop when it gets to the end of the file. And there's several ways of doing it. The way that I'm going to show you is actually comes off the cheat sheet, and it has an advantage. Number one, it's clean. There's few lines. And also, I forgot the name of the technique, but if you use this technique, your file will automatically close. So there's another advantage. And it's the keyword with. So we're going to do an open. Of course, we're going to open the same file that we wrote. And we just need a mode. And the mode we're going to specify here is for reading. And then we specify the file handle here. So the with and the as are a pair.
Does that as work like in database, going to make a file called?
Oh, yeah, I think a little bit like it. I don't know exactly, other than the with and the as go together. This is the name of the handle, just like it was before. And this also inherently forms a loop. So we do need a colon. And we'll figure it out, but I'm going to give it away now. We're going to need another variable to keep track of the row that we're in. So we'll set that up. No, I misspoke. This does not form a loop. This just forms the actions of what happens after we open the file. Here's the loop. Also, right off of the cheat sheet. For line in address file. The beautiful thing is that forms a loop, and that loop will execute for as many lines as there are in the address file, and then it will automatically stop. And because the loop stopped and that's the end of the thing, you'll automatically close the file. That's a beautiful thing. So that's why I like that technique. I don't know that we have enough time to create the problem, so I'm just going to get away with it. As we populate, as we load this thing, we don't want the first line in the file. Because what is the first line in the file? The header. So we want to skip that. So that means we have to ask the question or tell it if the row variable is not equal to 0, then we're in business. And right now it is equal to 0. But if it wasn't equal to 0, then we're in business. So here's a problem. All right, so we've ignored this. That's out of the picture. We now have, what do we have here in terms of reading the file? When I go to read the second record in the file, line number 2, what do I have? A string. The string happens to have commas in it, it happens to have spaces in it, it has letters in it, and it has numbers in it. All it is a string. And that's not going to do me much good for populating my form, is it? What I need to do is I need to take that string and I need to parse it based on a delimiter, and that's why we called it a CSV file, because we've delimited our fields with commas. So we're going to split this line up based on comma separators. Or if you want to do what Joe wanted to do, put tabs in the file and parse it based on tabs. Fortunately, there's a really cool way to do that. So we want to recreate a record And what we want to do is we want to take the line that we just read and do a split on it. And this has some extra parameters, but the only thing we need to do, actually it's probably equals, isn't there? Yeah. We need to, or we can specify a separator. It's optional. The default, I think, is to white space. That's not what we want. We want to split on commas. And just to prove that something good is happening, we're going to print out the record. And here we go. Remember our lists of widgets. So in our list of widgets, we're going to do TDX, first name. That's the widget. We need to say what element of that list are we talking about? Well, we're talking about the row variable -1. So we're ignoring row 0. We get to row 1 in our file, but the index in the array is actually 0. So we have to subtract the 1 there. Dot value. We're going to set its value to, oh, okay. Let me show you the record, and then it'll make more sense. Okay, so we have a file. We don't have to load the thing up again. Run the program, hit load, and let's see what we have down here. Nothing. Why do we have nothing? File is fine. That's the load button. Open the file. Make sure it's associated with the load button. All right, we'll try it again, then we'll try a little bit of debugging, and if it doesn't work, we will punt the issue and go home and get it fixed. So nothing has to be in there. So my question is this function being triggered? And the answer is it is. Is it reading stuff out of the file? Oh. There's hope. Inside the loop, I better increment row, right? If I don't increment row, it's going to stay at 0. And that's not good. So row plus equals 1. And now, regardless of what row it is, I'm moving on to the next row. Yeah, now we got some. And it's something that we almost expected, remembering that nobody expected the Spanish Inquisition. So what we have was we have a list. We know it's a list because there's square braces, brackets around them. We know we have comma-separated variables. We are a little surprised to learn that the last field in the record includes the new line character, which is something that we really don't want. But okay, that's what we have. And we also know that if we treat this as a list, this is the 0 element, this is the 1 element, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are 6 elements in this list, 0 through 5. Back to work. TBX of your adjusted row thing is going to be set equal to the first item in the list. There's the first item in the list. TBX last name at the same position is the next item in the list. And now it's getting a little boring, so we'll copy this. What do we do? 3, 4. So this is taking the record, which became a list when I split the thing up based on commas, and putting the right positions in the record into the right places on the form. So first name, last name, street. City. State. And zip code. So here's where I'm taking advantage of having a list of widgets. I'm taking my list of widgets, and for the correct row on my form, pulling the value out of the record that I created here. And regardless of what row I am on, I'm incrementing my row pointer. Okay. So remember what we do when something works. We did what we said we were going to do. We took the records, each line out of the file. We know to deal with it as comma-separated variables. We know what columns they go into, and we keep track of what record position we're loading up. Oh, here we are, I bet. What's going on here? Why is the cursor out there? It's not out there here. It's only out there. It's cursed, that's right.
The line thing, right?
Yep, that line thing. Let's assume that, even if we don't know why, let's assume that's not cool. So let's get rid of it. Here's another thing right off your cheat sheet. If you have a string, you can do a dot strip function on it. S-T-R-I-P. And what gets stripped, and it only needs to happen there, is a \n. Needs to get stripped off of record 5. That may not be worth the same applause that the first one was. Okay. There's another question that we could ask, which is, what if we happen to have leading or trailing spaces here? Is that really a problem? If it was, if you just do dot strip with nothing in there, it will strip leading and trailing spaces. No big deal. So now that I have this to this point, now I don't have to write things in anymore. I can just do this and add lines to my heart's content. But I must fill up everything. I have no idea what the zip code for Chicago is. So new information, I want to save that information. The end of the day, shut everything off, come back the next day, I've lost all my data. Where's my data? My data was in RAM, it's gone when the program closes. Well, that's unacceptable. I have to be able to bring back my data. So I bring back my data by hitting the load key, and the data comes back. And that's about it. So let's take a look at this new function. And then we can decide if we want to write a clear function now or not. Oh. Okay. So here's the load function. Fancy with as. Advantage is that the file automatically closes. A row counter, just because we need it. So we need it to skip over the heading, which is what we do here. We have to remember to increment it. And for line in address file does what it needs to do. It will go through each line in the file, and it will automatically turn false at the end when there are no more lines. So there are other uglier ways of doing this, but as far as I can see, this is the prettiest way for line in file. As long as we're not looking at the header, get the line that you just read and split it up based on commas, store it away in a string, and then pull the positions off the string that you can see down here. Pull the positions off the string and put them into the right value of the widget that belongs in the right list. Questions? Okay. Garrett, how are we doing?
Still here.
Okay. So we have a little bit of time. Let's tackle the clear function. Speaking about things being clear. And in the clear function, we need to navigate all of the text boxes, right? So we've done that already. And I don't want to do it again. So this is the thing that navigated through the whole form. I'm just going to copy that, put it over here. And if we're navigating through the whole form, assigning these things to these variables up here, then our life becomes easy. Remembering we're trying to do a clear function. First name dot clear. And it is a function, so it does need the parentheses. Might be interesting to note that dot value is not a function, right? There's no parentheses there. So it's not a set value function. It's a property, and it's just referred to by its name, which is value. Here, there's a function. And actually, our job is just about done. 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so just gotta get these things right. Last name. Street. City. State. Zip. So of course, now life becomes easy. We load things up. And when we clear things, okay, but it's not really cool to have my cursor sitting over here, is it? I think we can fix it. So the last thing we want to do outside of the loop is we want to, the word is focus. We want to set focus on an element in our GUI. So focus is usually set on things that can accept a value. There's no point of setting a focus on a text field. There is a point of setting it on the text box. And that's real easy. So we want it at the top. So it's TBX, first name. Which one? Well, the first one. And what do we want to do to that? We want to establish focus. So now we load things up. We put our cursor any old place. We hit clear, and our focus goes back to there. That might be something that comes in handy. All right, so let's look at the clear function. We use the same idea. We use the fact that we can zip these things together in a loop and have them plugged into this list. For those of you who are interested, this list then would actually be a tuple because it's in parentheses. And then we can refer to those values and do whatever we want to each first name in the list. So if there is anything pretty about this, and it certainly isn't pretty, but we'll do this for today. The first name in the list, the last name, we can do whatever we want to whatever thing that's in there. And then lastly, establish focus back here. Okay. Questions? Comments? There are 12 rows. Do I want more rows? Oh, I can do less rows. I can't do more because I'm going to run it buttons. So that's another problem. That's another issue. And the answer is yes. That would have to be. Yeah. Well, let's just see if we can change the number of rows. We can. That's interesting. These pick up right underneath that. There must be a good reason for that. Well, okay, I'm brave. We'll try 20 and see what happens. Not so good. Okay, so that gets that screwed up. Yes, we can set up the scroll, but we got to rethink some things to do that. So we'll put this back to where it was, 12. And that's fine. All right. Any other questions? Oh, we're good. All right. So let's stop recording.